Hello everybody, this is Carol from Friendly Quail and welcome to my channel. I'm going to show you something today. I've got my book ready to sew together. I have the signatures all ready and I'm going to sew together and then put buttons on the spine, which I have set out over here. I had someone ask me how to do that, so I'm gonna show it. And then all that'll be left for this little critter is final flip through. So I'm going to start by punching the holes in the spine. And what I do is I take graph paper and I cut it the size of the spine, but this is a 1/4 inch on the top and a 1/4 inch on the bottom because this is cut the size of my pages. But I have a 2.5 inch spine, so doing it with graph paper, I don't even really have to measure specifically. I just find where the middle is, and I find where halfway through is for each of these, and I'm putting in 3 signatures. And then I'm doing the 3-hole pamphlet, so I have the holes where they're going to be for each signature. And then when I do it on my papers, I'll just use the middle one and do that. So when I'm going to do this, I have this stuck on here so I know it's in the right place. And I use, it's like a Yellow Pages type phone book. And I poke through that so that my awl goes into the book. And I have 2 size awls. I have a really big one and I have a smaller one. And I'm going to use the smaller one and hope that those holes will be big enough for when I sew it together, because it's less wobbly if the holes aren't as big. So I'm going to do that. And what I do is, and pardon my sweatshirt sleeves, it's cold here in Florida. It's only been in the 50s. To me, that's really cold. You want to try to go straight up and down and go exactly where the dot is or where the crisscross is. And then I just kind of poke through, and I know I'm into the book, and I make sure that, and you can't probably see it on camera, but I can see where the hole is right here. I make sure that I'm through the fabric and all of that. And I'm just going to do that for all 6 of these holes. So, okay. I always use the graph paper because it just makes it so much easier to measure. And I tend to make a new one for every single book that I do. Although I might keep one and say it's for a golden book or something like that, so that I know what size to cut it out of the stuff. And I'm just making sure they're all the way through. All right, got 3 done, 3 to go. Okay. Push that through. There we go. And one more here. And then on the bottom row. You want to make sure you go straight through so they're lined up the right way. I picked out the buttons. I went through, and this is so vintage looking with the book from 1929 and all that. I decided that I would kind of stick with the darker, or I guess I have yellow because of this. I have navy blue and I have brown. I had a couple orange buttons. They didn't look good. And there's also green on here, so I used green. the orange was just too bright. Making sure that these are all the way through the fabric. Okay, now ready to get the signatures. Now what I do is when I'm going to put my signatures together, I'm going to start with the last signature, signature number 3. And I go through and make sure everything is lined up, that if I have something that's not full page, I have it at the top or the bottom where I want it to be. And then I clip it, and I clip it kind of so that it's straight, so that it's not, it wouldn't be straight flat, but it would be straight if it's in this position. Then I take my book and I just kind of open it up and I set it in here. Now you can buy these things, you know, that hold your book for you, but I haven't really needed to do that. So I'm going to take my little template here, and to make it easier to go in the hole, maybe I'll do it this way first. I'm going to fold it in half and right on the line that I want, and then I'll turn it around and fold it the other way. Now this should fit right in the center, and it should be it's not quite the right length. I did use one for a golden book and I forgot this book is a little bigger, but I can get it so that it's the same top and the bottom, and then I add that into the clips so that it's ready. And then I can go through and just do that center one. And get it all the way through. Make sure it's all the way through. And I keep those clips on until I have it pretty well sewn into the cover. So trying to make sure I get through. This one's a little bit off in the middle one, but I think it's pretty cool. No, it's good. Sorry. Okay. So once I have the holes for that, then I measure some thread. And I like to use wax linen. I measure it about 3 times the length. And I always have some that I cut off. I'm generous when I cut it. I'd rather have it too long and cut some off than have it not long enough. Alright, and then I have a needle, which does have a pointy end. And I put my thread into that eye. Now, with one thing nice about wax linen, it doesn't slip that much, but I want to make sure that it doesn't come through when I sew the hole in here. So I'm going to put this little clip on the end kind of to hold it. In fact, I usually put it up a little ways like that. Okay. Then I have to take out my template so I don't sew that in with it. Okay, I hope that lawn mowing noise isn't getting to you because they're mowing the lawn across the street. All right. So for the 3-hole pamphlet, you know, you go in from the middle and go, I'll make sure I go through the hole. So I'm coming out the middle. And I kind of pull it into that. Now it's time to go through the middle hole of the cover. So I have to find that. All right, poking it through. Woo! Things are flying. Okay. And then I'm going to pull that all the way through till the book comes into play here. Now, got to put the buttons on. So what I've done is I kind of laid out what I'm going to do. So these are going to be the bottom buttons, these are going to be the top buttons. So I'm going to be going in the third signature down. So I need to go through 3 buttons, and I hope this needle will go through all the holes. If it's a 4-holer, you just go through 2 of them, so you're it's sideways, kind of, or up and down or whatever. And this one will be next. Go through that button. And then I have this one. I don't worry about where they are right now. I just kind of get them all up towards where that is. Okay. And then I'm going to go up through I know it's there. Here it is. Okay, through my hole in the bottom hole in the cover. Okay, make sure they're all on there okay. And then up through my hole for my signature. Now, I like to kind of pull it, but I'm going to worry about getting it totally tight later. So my next step is to go back through the middle. And you want to make sure that you don't that you go next to the thread that you did before rather than trying to, catch it. And it's not too hard to do that. And that's a little tight because of the fact that the hole is there. Now is kind of when I pull it tight. And with the waxed linen, it just sort of stays there. And I can arrange these anywhere I want on here because they'll just slide along. And as I get the other buttons in the middle, I put some bigger ones, but I'll only put 2, so I'll kind of stagger them here. All right, now I'm ready to put the buttons for the top, and I'm going from the center out. See here. All right. I love the buttons on the journals. I do it a lot for my Golden Book journals. And I thought, oh, you have to have buttons on a sewing journal. Okay, so now I've got the buttons that need to go on this one. I'm going to pull them down a little bit and go through my hole in the cover and then through the hole in the signature. Having the clips on really helps a lot to keep everything together, and that's why I leave the clips on all the way through putting the journal on the cover, the signature into the cover. Okay, and like I said, I can do these around when it's all finished. So now I'm ready to finish this one up. You go underneath that bottom one, and then you just make sure they're really tight. And what I do is I kind of make sure I can sort of pluck it like a guitar string, and then I know it's tight enough. And once I've got it tight enough, then I do a square knot. So right over left, under, and pull, left over right, under, and pull. Now for right now, I'm just going to let this on. A lot of times I do a dangle on here or something. But that signature is in. I can take off the clips. And we are set with our first signature with the buttons. So I'm just going to do the other two. Before I started doing journals, I did just about every other craft that there is. And a big one was quilting. Once I started to quilt, in 1980 was when I started to quilt. I kind of stopped doing a lot of other things. For example, I have a cross stitch that I started in 1980, and it's still not finished. And it's up in Wisconsin at our camper where we usually go up for the summer. Okay, and now I'm ready to do the second one. So I have to poke the holes. I've got my second signature here. I'm going to poke the holes. So I have to put my template on, clip it in. Once that's in, I'm ready to go for my holes for the signature. Okay, get another one. So anyway, I've been a quilter for a long time, and I have it's a mid-arm quilting machine, and I just started doing journals, and I don't even want to quilt anymore. But I have all these unfinished objects, so I'm going to need to do that. So that's one of my goals for this year. But I don't want to give up the time when I'm really enjoying something else. Then I hate to give up the time to go back to a hobby that I'm kind of done with. But I have so many things to finish that I need to do it. Okay, center hole. Get this out of the way. Go through the center hole that I poked in the cover. Now when you go through, you can go to the top first, or you can go to the bottom first. Doesn't matter. The hole could have been a little bit bigger, but it'll do. I'll get it in there. Okay. But it just, be consistent. I just have gotten in the habit of going to the bottom one first. So I'm going to pick up my buttons. Oh, I can hear my husband talking in the background. I hope it's not too irritating. I'm going to tell him next time, stay off the telephone. Uh-oh. This is a little tight for that hole. Okay. Don't really need this on for that. I'll take it off. Yeah. Okay. I'll just put it through like this, and then I'll put it back on. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I use a different needle. And I'm going to be putting these on here. Get this back in the needle so I can go through the holes. Alright. Go through that middle bottom hole. If you want, you can pull it all the way through. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I need to get out my little pliers. Okay, and then through the hole in the signature. And make sure it's all lined up. And the next step, go back through the middle, signature. Obviously this isn't tight. I'll make sure it's really tight before I tie it up. Okay. Woo. All right, back through the middle hole. Try to get it nice and tight. And like I said, I can rearrange these later, but this is about what it'll look like. Make sure that's kind of tight. And now put my buttons on for the... Okay, lots of noise going on today. Sun is shining today, even though it's chilly. I'll have to get out and ride my bike, trying to make sure I get some exercise in. Okay, and through here, and through the hole in the top signature. Yep, this is gonna work just fine. Make sure it's tight. I've used other things besides waxed linen. Sometimes I use like baker's twine and stuff like that, and it works too, but it's a little harder to, it slips a little bit more. So I went under there, and now I'm gonna do my square knot before I double knot it. I'll make sure everything's good. Yep. And I'll just cut some of that off. And we have signature 2 in. So one more to go. Okay. So I said I was making quilts, and I have a number of them done. It isn't like I never finish anything. I've made lots of quilts. But one of the quilts I made, I named it the De Pere Chainsaw Massacre. And De Pere is the name of a city that I used to live in. And this is a squirrel story. So we get the quilt started with one of those crazy 9 patches where you layer up fabric, make a cut, flip one to the bottom, and then sew them all together, and that type of thing. It was all the rage for a while. And so my quilt group, it was just a little friends quilt group. We used to get together about once a week and quilt together. And so we I'm going to see how much time I've got on here. I can't see. Okay, this is going to cut off within 10 minutes, so I want to try to get this done. But anyway, it was one of those crazy 9 patch things, and we all bought fabric. So we had like there were 7 of us who did it, and there were two fabrics each. So we all picked a line, and I think what we did, it was thimbleberries or something. So it would kind of go together, but we each picked the fabrics that we wanted, and we tried to, vary it, a lighter one, a darker one, or whatever. And then we cut out the squares, and we traded them, and then we all made the same quilt. And put mine together, and I thought, well, I have to do some kind of border. I'm going to I don't know what to do. So one of my friends said, I see that with flowers and vines along the outside. And after that, I couldn't see it any other way. So it took me a while, but I did it with a machine applique. I did like a vine and flowers and everything, and put that border on, and in the corner I put squirrels, and in each of the 4 corners. And the reason I did that, well, I have a thing with squirrels anyway, but we had a tree in our front yard, and unfortunately my husband had to cut it down because it was dying. Well, we didn't realize that there was a nest of squirrels in it. So he was cutting through it, and he hit with a chainsaw this nest of baby squirrels. And he felt just terrible. And it was awful. It was just awful. And he felt terrible. But the reason I put the squirrels on the quilt was because the middle was so, choppy and everything, and then the bottom, or the corners, were like pastoral, just beautiful leaves and swirls and everything. So it was sort of like, the poor squirrels were in their little heaven, and then on earth, and then they the chainsaw came along. So I have a strange sense of humor, but it just seemed fitting to do that. I'm not sure if this one's going to go through. Yep, it will. Definitely not the needle, but I can get this through. These are a lot of these are vintage buttons that I got at estate sales and things. This one still had thread on it. Yesterday I had to cut it off. So the poor squirrels were gone. The tree was gone. And then the mother squirrel came and sat on the stump and just looked so sad. And we felt terrible. And the thing is that we always had a lot of squirrels on our property because we had these big trees. And I'm going to work on that. You're getting the drift. But we always named them for what they look like fluffy tail or white ears. And there was one that only had one eye, so we called her One Eye. And she always looked so lonely, and she was always by herself, and she was the mother of those squirrels. And she came and sat on that tree, and we were like devastated that we had killed her babies. It felt so bad. But of course I had to memorialize it with my quilt. And I gave it to my husband because it was kind of masculine colors. So that's squirrel number 2 story. You know what? I'm going to end. I'm going to have to get that through, but you do it the exact same way you did it for the first 2. I don't want this to cut off and start putting me into another half hour. So I'm going to say see you until I do the final flip through, and thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll subscribe and keep coming back. Thank you very much. Love you guys. Bye.